Okay, we're looking at the meditative process. I would just like to add a little bit of something. I've dragged Beth through many situations that we both wished I had not done later on, usually having to do with camping or boating or bicycling. We got caught on Mount Evans in a blizzard, 70-mile-an-hour winds, lightning, thunder. Terrified both of us. We had to be rescued from the mountain. They took us down to the lower lake, and it was 80 degrees, blue skies, just like going from pure hell to heaven in just a few minutes. But anyway, I have to say she's still with me, and we're both here. But we've been in some situations that they make you wonder, does prayer work? You know, does any of this spiritual stuff work? We got caught in a tornado on a 18-foot catamaran. Had to spend the whole night on out in the rain. With our sail was our only protection. We didn't have a tent, and the sail leaked. So we were soaking wet all night, and again, thunder, lightning, extremely high winds in Missouri. And you're thinking, well, Beth kept saying, won't they rescue us? And I said, nobody in their right mind is going to come out and try to find us. They don't know where we are in the first place. So, yeah, we hope they were praying for us at least. But sometimes you just have to huddle up and try to stay warm and get to the next moment. And prayer is just staying with it, staying there sometimes. I mean, prayer is that kind of action. And it's visualizing, you know, the outcome that you want. We got up the next morning in that case and put the sail up on the boat and went out. It was just a gorgeous day, you know, just absolutely gorgeous. You were never in the ranger drives up in his boat, you know, and says, are you guys the ones that were lost? And, well, I always knew where we were, but nobody else did. But so when we talk about prayer, you know, we're not talking about a magic wand. We're talking about an attitude. And when we talk about meditation, I think it's important to issue a warning about meditation that you probably are not used to hearing. But I will relate this to the near-death experience, what people report when they step out of their bodies, when they have this incredible experience that they can't even find words to describe. They say that it takes about 7 years to integrate that experience into their daily life. Nobody believes them. You know, the professionals it's getting better, everybody says. The hospice people and the doctors, nurses, they say the nurses have always been ahead on that game. They've always understood much better than doctors are willing to. But there's a lot of training coming in now. But anyway, that's beside the point, because the experience is so incredible that nothing in their life, they can't relate to anything else. Nothing compares. It's like stepping from a beautiful, bright, sunny day and going into a cellar, you know, and trying to be happy in that kind of a setting. So when you meditate, what you're doing is you're knocking on this door to the infinite. And if that door opens even a little bit, it's going to change your life. It's going to change your whole perception. You're going to realize that you're something so much more than you have thought, if you haven't had this kind of experience already. That it will change the way you think of everything. And that's not necessarily a fun thing, because you will see something, you'll see a level of life that nobody around you sees. See, I think that's one of the biggest problems Jesus had. He was a mystic trying to talk to people who had never had a spiritual awakening. They were all engaged in religion, practicing religion. That's how they thought of spirituality. He was saying there's a level of experience that will change the whole way you see yourself, the whole way you think of God, the whole way you come across in life. And he made the distinction between this world and, this is not my kingdom is not of this world. He's speaking of a reality that's here, but we don't generally see it. And the mystical experience I had was the same thing. That's why I relate so much to the near-death experiencers. My mind, in an instant, was open to something that was the most real thing I've ever seen in my life, but I couldn't explain it to anybody. And I knew that's who I am. That's what I am. That's what we all are. This deep level of life energy that is absolutely loving, absolute pure love, pure energy. And it opens your eyes to the possibility. You say, I've lived my whole life and never seen this, never experienced this, and suddenly here it is. It's like looking through my telescope for the first time and seeing the rings of Saturn. It's been up there all along. But I remember the day I saw it, or the night I saw it the first time. And then I began seeing other things, this globular, it's hard to say, globular, a big cluster of stars. There's all kinds of things floating around out there. These nebula and all kinds of beautiful things that we walk under unaware. You go out in the Utah desert and you can almost see some of these incredible sights, but when you look through a telescope, you have just a little bit more vision. But we're walking in a world that we think is real. And so when you begin to engage in meditation, when you reach that point where your mind breaks through, you'll never see yourself the same again, ever. And it's not a bad thing in one way, because you'll say, this is the most familiar feeling of home I've ever had. That's what it felt like to me, was homecoming. And that's what the near-death experiencers say. I was home. And many of them are angry when they're told by a being of light or somebody, it's not your time, you got to go back. They say, I'm not going back. There's no way. Yeah, you're going back. It's not your time. You got something to learn. What? I'm not going to tell you. You got to go figure it out yourself. And so they go back and they don't know what it is they're supposed to learn. And I think that's one of the reasons it takes 7 years on average to try to fit in, try to figure it out. What is this? Why would I have this incredible experience and then suddenly I don't? Suddenly it's not there anymore. It's just daily stuff that I go through. So you're on a path in meditation. You're on a path to open a door to a reality that you probably have not experienced, but you've sensed it. And that's why we pursue it. We sense there's something more. There's something greater. And it's like this infinite is pushing in upon us all the time, or pushing out through us, however you want to look at it. It never goes away. And that's why we always feel like life could be something more than it is, because it can. But there is a transitional period where your mind will be so open to this deeper reality that you won't know what to do with it. When I had that experience, it didn't last all that long, but I thought it would never end. And actually for about 3 days there were aftershocks. It just kept persisting, but it kept getting dimmer and dimmer, and pretty soon it felt like it was totally gone. If you read the accounts of the mystics, and might call your attention to Evelyn Underhill's book, Mysticism. She's got and it's a very hard read, I'll say that, but there's a section in there called The Dark Night of the Soul. And many mystics have this mind-opening, mind-blowing experience, and then it leaves, and they feel abandoned. So that's something that you have to keep in mind when you're pursuing this stuff. And it's not something we think about, because most of us think of enlightenment as we go along, maybe we meditate, our mind is suddenly opened, and we go from that point on. You know, Jesus walks around totally enlightened all the time. I think if he was experiencing that enlightenment all the time, would he have gotten so angry that he made a whip and started beating the heck out of people in the temple and turning tables over? And would he have gone through a whole litany of names for the scribes and Pharisees, the religious professionals, of vipers, scorpions, whitewashed tombs full of dead men's bones? He came up with some good ones. You know, was he in an enlightened, loving? Did he love his enemies at that moment? You know, I don't think he was any kind of a strange person. I think he was a human being whose mind opened, and he understood that there was this deeper reality. And why would we pursue something like this? This is what I want to kind of deal with today. The goal of meditation is to acquaint yourself firsthand with the pure essence of life before it is colored by your own thinking. Okay? Pure essence of life. What is that? When you say, I'm alive, you know that you're speaking of an energy. Life is an energy. It's a form of energy. And we see it expressed through all kinds of organisms. When science talks about life, is there life on other planets? What they're asking is, this energy that we know as life, is it manifesting as an organism somewhere else? Because when we ask the question, is life on other planets, the answer is absolutely. Because God is life, God is omnipresent, everywhere present equally at the same time. The question is there an atmosphere that can sustain the organism? Life itself, your soul, you as energy do not need air to breathe or water to drink or a warm day. Without a body, we don't need any of those things. So yes, there is life. It's everywhere. You remember the picture of the Earthrise that I showed here one time, and around the Earth, you know, the picture taken from the moon, around the Earth it's black. It looks like nothing's there. You know, you say, where is the light? Well, you can see it bounce off the blue Earth. But there's just as much light in the blackness as there is bouncing off the Earth. The Earth is just in a position where I should have put that up today, but the Earth is in a position where it's actually reflecting the light that otherwise you could not see. But that's omnipresence. That just because we don't see God doesn't mean God is not here. It doesn't mean the fullness of life is not here. So is there life? There's no place where life is not. You know, that's what the metaphysician or the mystic would say. The scientists will say it's here and it's there, but it's not there. But they're talking about organisms. They're talking about things that life shines through. So we all are endowed with life. We're living beings. But we're like a layered cake. There's that pure essence that we are, and let's call it the soul. It's our spiritual essence. And on top of that, we have a personality, self-image. And it's history. It's the history of our body. It's from our earliest memories to now. It's our gender. It's our color. It's our social status. It's all the things that we attach to this body. And that's where we live most of the time. And in a moment of clarity, you will drop down through that level, that self-image, that personality, and touch this pure essence of life. And you'll find that it has nothing to do with who you thought you were. And that's something that you'll get used to. You need to get used to that. But because the world thinks that's who you are, that's what we're taught. That's the thing we educate. That's where we put all the facts. That's the, it's like a blank slate that comes onto this planet, and we have to fill it up with facts. Have you ever watched a baby dream? A newborn baby? What would they possibly dream about if they were empty? It's like, I know that's not true. The soul is fully present, fully intact, but it has not yet been polluted by all the stuff we're going to pour into it. And I shouldn't say it that way exactly, but it's really true. We're not a culture that believes in the soul. We're a culture that believes in the brain, in the intellect. And we want to bolster that, and we absolutely need the intellect. The intellect is a powerful tool. But what good is it to gain that world of the intellect and lose your soul? That's the question Jesus asked. And that's what we are culturally trained to do, to focus more on the information, the education, the degree. We measure people by how much money they have, by the degrees they have, rather than by what they are at the spiritual level. And when you drop down into that spiritual level, all the measuring devices that you've been taught to use become meaningless. You no longer see a person, well, I shouldn't say that. We all do that. We measure, because we're culturally trained to measure people by whatever happens to be attached to their name, or whatever they have in their bank account, or wherever they live, or what kind of car they drive, or we measure them by what they have, not by what they are at the spiritual level, and we do the same thing with ourselves. That's why the positive thinking, get rich kinds of things are so popular. We want to become more. We think positive so we can draw more good to us, more prosperity, so we can become more. And you see, the whole meditative process bypasses that. It sees value. We see value in that. But if we are using spiritual principles just to add material wealth to us, we're not using spiritual principles. We are using them to acquire material goods. And what Jesus talked about is a different approach. Seek first the kingdom, and all of these other things will be added. And he's saying, when you know who you are at the spiritual level, then your needs are met, like the sparrow and the lilies of the field. There's a natural prosperity process that occurs. So to get down to the first-hand experience of the pure essence of life, before it's colored by your thinking, you see, we're saying to our intellect, just be still for a minute here. Be still for the next 30 minutes. Because I want to drop down into who I am before any of this happened, to my true spiritual essence. That's the point, the purpose of it, and you cannot describe it to somebody. If you met somebody that never had a glass of orange juice, and they'd say, "What's that taste like?" How would you describe that? You can't give it to somebody. And you know why? Because every experience that you have is subjective. It takes place within you. And yes, 10 people can drink a glass of orange juice and have a similar experience, but you can't pass that experience on to somebody else. You can't tell them what it is, what it actually is. You can describe it, and I've used that as an example before. You can break it down into chemical compounds on a piece of paper and say, "Here, this is orange juice." So how good of an experience is that? Or you can hand them a glass and say, take a drink. So they have a first-hand experience with what you're talking. They know then what you're talking about. So that's what we're doing. We want to do in meditation is drop down and have a drink of orange juice. We want to have a first-hand experience with this thing we call God, because we may not want to call it God anymore. We may come up with another name. I like the creative life force as the name. But God's okay too. So when your mind begins to open, how will this look? Will you encounter a being that meets your childhood expectations of what the Almighty is supposed to look like? I didn't, so I can only speak from my own experience. This has nothing to do with anything I experienced. I experienced energy. And that energy was powerful, but quiet. It was a still small voice that got my attention, totally. But those qualities are expressed in this figure, strong, surrounded by all these little helpers, this wise old man of the universe, running the universe. It's wisdom. And I cut Adam out. He wasn't wearing any clothes. I didn't think it would be appropriate for me to put him up there. So I cut him out, but that's who God's touching. Their fingers are touching. That's the connection. And it all means something on a spiritual level, on a metaphysical level. But we have taken literally, that's God, that's the old man in the sky. So I become still so I can experience God. Well, it's not that one. It's not that God. So that's one of the big challenges that we have, is laying aside what is it I'm supposed to experience? What is it I'm looking for? And there is so much of the process is just simply letting go and trusting. Jesus put it very simple. He never explained what you're really looking for. But he said, when you pray, go into your room, shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And what's important about this statement, your room, go into your room. It indicates a space that is yours, and that's a mental space. I'm not looking for somebody else's God. I'm not looking for somebody else's experience. This is my journey. This is my experience. He doesn't say you must go into a holy shrine, a temple, or a cave in the Himalayas. And I know people travel around the world looking for this experience. You can't buy it. You can't find it anywhere else. If you can't find it where you are, you won't find it anyplace else. And people swear they do, though. Go to some place where they say there's an energy there that you just can't pick up anywhere. Well, do you believe in omnipresence or not? Is there more energy in one place than another? Is God more present in one place than another? That's one of the things we have to eliminate. Make this your experience. Close the door also means turn off your cell phone. It's so easy to take that thing with us wherever we go, even in our times of quiet. I want to talk to God, but if somebody else calls, we'll talk to them first. Eliminate the possibility of being disturbed. That's what it means. Go to your place. Go to a place that's yours. And make this yours. I've been in cathedrals, and there are some very impressive places. Some of you have been in the wonderful cathedrals of the world in Europe and so forth, but I have not. I've been in enough to where I know you step into this cathedral, it's huge. And it's sort of designed to make you feel small, or to make you sense the vastness of the maker, or whatever it's supposed to do. What happens when you close your eyes? You could be sitting in your dirty garage in a lawn chair. Doesn't matter. You're still in the presence of God. You sit down in that cathedral, close your eyes, sit down in your garage, close your eyes, same place. You're in the same place. You may be in a different place mentally because I'm in a holy spot, you think, but you're not. Jacob discovered he was standing on holy ground. That's the whole point of that story. I thought I was outside of the presence of God, but I realize I'm in the presence of God. This is the very gate to the kingdom. pray to your Father who is in secret, and that's important. It indicates a personal contact with the Lord your God. Love the Lord your God. Not the God of Jesus, not the God of the church, not the God of anybody else. The reward is genuine revelation, a direct experience with God. So let's get kind of down to where this experience occurs and how it occurs. Your first experience may be little more than a slight movement or sensation of energy that you recognize as something more than a normal emotion. And I've got a pot with steam to symbolize this. We're looking for energy. We're not looking for a being. And that's why it's so difficult to explain. We're looking for something we don't know what it is exactly. We're looking for an experience. We're looking for that swig of orange juice, but we don't know how to get it exactly. So what we do is we do our best to still the mind and to open ourselves. We can say something like, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm open. I'm open and receptive to a deeper level of experience, pure being, pure energy. When my mind started opening to that level, it was different from anything I had ever imagined. Nothing I could conjure up was like that. It's a level of energy that is so real, but you may experience it just for a flash initially. Or you may not experience it at all. You may get up and go about your business. Sometime through the day, you have this deep sense of gratitude, and you don't know why. You're opening that door, and you probably won't think about it. If that happens to you, you won't think about it. You won't make that connection, that moment. But you will eventually. You'll say, oh, I see what happened. I'm starting to open a door, and this energy is popping up into my awareness. So a deep sense of gratitude without any reason to be grateful. That's kind of sometimes how it manifests first. Charles Fillmore said it started manifesting, he was meditating with no success whatsoever. And he began to have very vivid dreams. So maybe it'll do that way with you. It's different for everyone. But it's like it knows how to communicate with you, because it is you. It's got first-hand knowledge of who you are. It's just looking for a crack in the consciousness so it can seep in. It's a still small voice, which is not a voice at all. Doesn't that make sense? You can't describe it. But it's a whisper, it's a sensation, a slight sensation at first. And many of you know what I'm talking about. It just, that's always been the problem. That's why we have made religions out of this whole thing. We've made things that we can put on paper and we can memorize. Because you can't pass on the mystical experience. And that's the whole essence of it. You want to know the church that Jesus built, it's the one I just read. Go into your room, shut the door. Pray to your Father who is in secret. That's the church. That's all you need. You know you're making progress when your mind begins to slow to a relaxing, clear pace. It's not good to try to force stillness, quietness. Do not make the mistake of trying to stop your thinking. You can't stop your thinking. It won't stop. But you can redirect it. You can take a statement like, I now relax and let go. Just be still and know. Something very simple. Keep pulling yourself back. I now move deeper into the pure essence of being. And let go. Say it and let go. Say it and let go. Opening your mind to the infinite is a natural act that most of us have simply forgotten. And in truth, we really haven't forgotten it. It's that thing that stands at the door of our consciousness and knocks constantly. Life can be better. Life can be more. We drop down into this deeper level, and we start rebuilding ourselves from that point. We become something, well, we become ourselves. Be true to yourself. That's the whole plan. In time, you will begin to experience new and deeper feelings of freedom and inspiration that are not grounded in or tied to external events. These may come in unexpected times throughout your day. Do not look for such feelings, but acknowledge them when they come. Stay with your practice, and the way will become clear. So it takes a constant sitting and a practice. It's like Emily Cady said, you wouldn't learn the piano, by just going once in a while and practicing. You pick a time where you can do that. I find that my best time, my favorite time, is early in the morning. And there's something to that, because before everybody wakes up, that energy, when people start waking up in traffic and all that, we pick up on that kind of stuff. We're sensitive to it, a lot more than we realize. Not to mention all the cell phone waves and all the stuff that are flying through the air all the time. Okay, so we'll go into it next week. We'll look at a little different aspect of it. And, I can't pass on how to do this. I can only talk about it. So it's up to you to stick your own toe in the water. All right? Thanks for coming out, and we'll see you next week. Peace, she reigns forever, locked in silent splendor. The air and flow of the endless tides of time, they cannot dim that deep eternal light. See the canyons glowing, light of spirit growing. Let the wind carry you far from every fear, and touch the face of this eternal land. See the meadows turning, lilies are not yearning. All are born by that same soft living light, the still small voice that whispers in your mind. We
You've been watching a talk given by Reverend Doug Bottorff here at Independent Unity in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us spread our message. If you would like to support us, you can do so by clicking the button in the right-hand corner of the video screen. We greatly appreciate your support. Thanks again for watching.